What is up, YouTube? It's Brandon from Tattooing 101, and today we're going to be going over DragonHawk fake skins. These are fake skins that you could get specifically through DragonHawk, and I'm going to open it up right now. Cool, so you could tell right away that it's a bigger sheet. It's actually like the size of a piece of paper, maybe a little bit longer. It's definitely thicker. It looks about 3 millimeters thick, which is awesome, but it's the same kind of feel as the Amazon fake skins. So I'm excited to see kind of how that works out with actually tattooing, because honestly, the other ones I've tried, it's definitely thicker, which is awesome. But just like the feeling of it is, it doesn't stretch at all. It's going to be tattooing like a basketball or something. So let's try it out. And if you're new to this channel, make sure you like and subscribe down below and hit the little bell notification so you can keep updated on all the new tattooing content I make each week. So let's get into the DragonHawk review. Alright, so now that our stencil has been able to dry for 3 hours, which is normally exactly how long I let them dry, we're going to do a smear test to see how bad it smears. So it looks like it's on there pretty good after 3 hours. It is smearing a little bit in some areas, but yeah, it's about the same as the other ones. So when it comes to the actual stencil, it did work really good, but like I said, some of the other cheap fake skins did a really great stencil, but when you go to actually start tattooing them, it's really rough. One thing I will say is these do feel exactly like the Amazon fake skins I did try, but they are thicker. So the one thing I didn't like about them is they weren't 3 millimeters thick, which these are. So you're going to be able to go into these 2 millimeters thick, which is exactly where you want to practice to get into actual real human skin. So that is one plus when it comes to these, is that they are thick enough to learn those things. So let's get into actually trying to line this fake skin and see how it does. Okay, as always, I'm going to line it exactly how I would on any other tattoo or any other fake skin that I do. So you could hear it's really, really loud. It's definitely, you could hear the machine really working to get into these fake skins because it is so tough. So it's not remotely close to like Franken skins, real skins, pound of flesh. It's nowhere close to that. It is really tough. But you could see I'm able to make some pretty consistent lines. You could see in areas to where it's not wanting to go into it because it is so tough. And I'm having to slow my hand speed down quite a bit just to have it go into these. So that's one thing to think about if you're practicing on these, getting your depth control correct, all of those things. If you're going to jump onto human skin, you're going to definitely need to try out some real skins before jumping onto that, because you're going to really butcher somebody if you try to tattoo an actual human being like this. Yeah, just so you could hear the difference, here's a piece of real skin right here. I'm just going to do a line right here just so you could hear the difference between the two. Okay, there's a line on that compared to... Yeah, I'm not sure if you can hear that in the video, but it is definitely probably 2 times louder tattooing on this stuff. Yeah, I'm having some problems with inconsistencies of my lines, which, normally would not be happening at all. If I'm tattooing on Franken skins, real skins, or even human clients, I don't have this issue. So it's probably due to how the fake skins use, what elements they're using in order to make it, and like the ingredients and things like that, to where it's just so plasticky or just non-elastic at all, to where it's just really, really hard to get these lines in there in a consistent manner. Which, if you are first starting out, this is going to be super frustrating because you don't know if it's something that you're doing or if it's like the fake skins or what's going on. That's why I always recommend people to get, you know, the good stuff when you're first starting out, so you know it's not an issue with, you know, what you're using. It's something that you could just tweak to, you know, change the problems. But if you're using things like this, it's hard to tell exactly what the problem is, because it could just be the materials, the machine, things like that that you're using, which is causing the issue to begin with. All in all, I will say that it is working better than the Amazon ones, because it is a little bit thicker. That's one thing that I despise the most, was it just wasn't thick enough to be able to tattoo correctly. This is thick enough. It's still not working. It's not something that I would recommend people who are wanting to jump onto human skin to practice with. But if you are first starting out and wanting to get used to your depth control, things like that, or even how to place stencils, this would be a really good cheap method for that. But if you're trying to, you know, focus on making perfect lines or learning exactly how fast your hand speed needs to be or your voltage, this isn't really going to help too much, because you really have to slow down to the point that you would destroy someone's skin if you were tattooing them this way. So if you're doing this as a hobby and just kind of like messing around, you know, by all means pick these up. You could get them really cheap, like I said, and you know, you could practice with them, have fun with them. But if you're wanting to do this for a living and practice on actual human beings, eventually this is not the way to go, because you want to practice every chance you can get on the closest thing that you will be tattooing for a living. So obviously real skins, Frankenskins, those couple of brands are definitely the go-to method. It also does feel like my needle's wanting to like stick in it, so my machine's having to work extra hard just to push these needles into this. So I'm sure that it's probably not the greatest for your machines either. I'm sure that they'll go out a lot quicker if you're like tattooing on these all the time trying to practice, just because it shouldn't be this hard to, you know, tattoo. It's kind of like, I don't know, the easiest way to explain it would be like tattooing into a wooden table, which obviously is not what it feels like at all in real life. Another thing I noticed when I'm tattooing this is it is super messy. So like, you know, I'm using Vaseline, trying to clean it as much as possible, and it's still really hard to keep it perfectly clean. So it's smearing everywhere, making a mess. It's hard to see where everything is. So yeah, this is going to be super frustrating for you guys if you are using this stuff, just because it's going to be really hard to kind of see where everything is. You're going to have to wipe it down so many times to where your stencil is going to come off, just like it just did. And it's going to be really hard to try to keep track of what you need to tattoo. So if you are using this stuff right now, I'd highly recommend trying something different, just because of these couple of things. Like, I'm tattooing this, and yeah, I cannot stand it. It's just really annoying, and the other practice skins don't really have this issue. It's just like the ones made with this type of material just have super bad issues all around the board. Pretty much issues with lining, issues with shading. We haven't really got into the shading part yet, but I could assure you that it's going to be exactly like the Amazon fake skin review, to where it just didn't work out. But I'll get through this line work and we'll try it out anyway. Alright, let's get this cleaned off so we could try out the shading on these practice skins. Like I said, I could already tell you guys that I'm not going to like it, but we'll do it for the sake of the video. Yeah, and like with real skins, you know, any of the other ones, even Pound of Flesh, all of those, I don't really have to fight with them to keep them clean. Like, you know, you put a little bit of Vaseline on them, wipe them off as you're tattooing, even dabbing them off, and it comes off easily. This is just, yeah, it's just a mess. And if you had to like do this halfway through a tattoo because it got everywhere, all of your stencil would just completely rub off and you would be 100% lost. So yeah, these are just super hard to tattoo with. Would not recommend at all, really, unless maybe you were first starting out and, like I said, just messing around, practicing. But even if you're doing that, just get the better stuff. Like, you could see my lines are not saturated and I tattooed. I even slowed down my hand speed, and everything I could have done to be able to make a good tattoo with this stuff, and it still just had issues puncturing the skin, saturating it correctly, when with real skins, they have no issue. With Frankenskins, obviously no issue being able to saturate it. All the lines come out really nice and crisp, so it's obviously what they're using to make these things. Okay, yeah, exactly what I thought. So this stuff is just super tough. So even with my mag, it's just really, really hard to get anything saturated. This helmet's supposed to be black, and just going over it multiple times, and it's still not even as saturated as I would like it. So this stuff, if you practice with this, you're really going to overwork someone's skin to the point that they would be just completely jacked up. It would cause so much scar tissue. So yeah, just back on the original statement that this is definitely not something you want to practice with, like, at all. It's really hard to get transitions. You can see how many times I'm going over with this, and if you watch my other videos, I do this right like that and it's done. And I'm having to go over it multiple times. Another thing is, it's really hard to get black into, like, the skin tone. Normally I would just do this right here, and that would make the transitions, but you could see that it goes black and then just super light. It makes no sense. So there's no transitions. It just goes completely black into this medium gray. So there's absolutely no way to be able to make a smooth gray wash with this stuff. Probably because it's like holding back the needles to be able to do that, just because of how tough it is. I'm going to call it. I'm going to work on this eye a little bit, but I'm not going to go through and do the shading on this whole design, just because there's absolutely no point to it. At the end, it's not going to look how I want it, just because it's just not able to be tattooed correctly. You can see there's no way to make transitions with this. Even if I go over it multiple times, it's just going to be, black into that light tone. So it looks super choppy, and just doesn't look right. So now comes the point to where I tell you if it's worth it or not. And obviously you already know the answer to that, which is no. It is super cheap. You could get that big sheet for, what, $10, compared to, the Frankenskins, that you could get a smaller one about this size for $10. But at the end of the day, the design I did on here is about as big as the Frankenskins one, so you're paying double for a better product you could actually learn on. Same thing with real skins. This stuff just isn't worth it. It's not something that you really should be ordering or even practicing with, just because it's just going to cause you way more issues in the future. So just trying to relearn everything the correct way that you kind of learned the wrong way on this stuff. And it's a lot easier to learn right the first way than it is to unlearn and try to learn something different. So yeah, that'll be my advice. If you guys have any other fake skins that you'd like me to try out, leave a comment down below so I could check them out and order some more, so I could review them, so you could see if it's worth using or not. And these ones are not. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you guys have a wonderful day.